I say what ho, chaps and chappets, game chap and birdie here.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, fellows, and I dare say we have here some news for you concerning the upcoming Zelda Wii U, that is The Legend of Zelda on Wii U. However, it's not necessarily good news, is it, old chap?
Well, most certainly not. No, it isn't, old chap. No, indeed. You see, as you may remember, at the Game Awards in December 2014, Mr. Aonuma said that Zelda Wii U would be launching in 2015, this very year we're in now. And he was quite clear about this.
That's right. Now, who is Mr. Aonuma, you may ask? He
Yes.
is, in fact, the Zelda production chap. In other words, the chief in charge of the Zelda series. Of course, he works with Mr. Miyamoto upon the Zelda games and getting them just right, etc., and so forth.
Yes.
Now, both he and Mr. Miyamoto were quite clear about the fact that they would be launching Zelda Wii U in 2015.
Most certainly they were, and we reported on it at the time, and everyone was very, very excited about it, etc., so forth. It was all fun.
Yes.
But since that announcement, the production staff have been working hard on making the game and doing the things that they do to make it all come together, etc.
Right.
Now, whilst doing this, the team have experienced first-hand a freedom of exploration that has not existed in any Zelda game up until now. That's partially quoting Mr. Aonuma himself there.
Right, okay, so what we're saying is the team have been playing the Zelda game as they were making it, and they've experienced whilst playing it this sense of being able to explore this large world, to go around and do different things, and basically a sense of grand exploration and adventure that hasn't been present in any Zelda game up until now. Almost, if you will, a Skyrim sense of world and
Yes.
vastness of scale, okay?
Yes.
So basically, therefore, they've had to come up with some new ideas and possibilities for the game as they've been doing this, because it's new territory for them. They've never been here before.
Right.
And whilst they've been working on implementing their ideas, they've also been brainstorming more ideas in the process.
Well, exactly. They've got this huge, great big world. They've come up with ideas for it. Then as they've come up with those ideas, more ideas have sprung forth, etc., so forth. as it were.
Exactly, and of course this is, as I said, brand new territory for the Zelda team, because although they've had large worlds in the past, never have they had anything quite this large before.
Exactly. And Mr. Aonuma has said that now they feel that they can create something that exceeds even his expectations.
Right, that's an interesting statement there.
It is, isn't it?
Okay, I don't know quite where that's coming from, but anyway, Mr. Aonuma thinks then that rather than working towards a specific schedule and releasing a game limited by some time deadline, in other words, perhaps rush through, he feels strongly that they should spend time bringing their ideas to life to make Zelda Wii U as good as possible.
Well, exactly. And I'm sure everyone listening out there now is the pen is beginning to drop, as it were.
Yes.
Oh dear, that doesn't sound very, very good, you see.
No.
And you see, and then he went on from there to say that he apologised to everyone out there who was expecting the game by the end of this year, or sometime this year, because they're no longer making 2015 their number one priority for release.
Oh dear, so in
No.
Japanese it's Gomen nasai minasan, choto metane kudasai, which means, sorry everyone, wait a moment please, because it's not quite ready for release yet, you'll see. So
no.
they're going to have to wait a little bit, we're going to have to wait, whilst the team come up with these new ideas and start to implement things that fit the large overall vast scale mechanic of this game, because it's something we haven't yet seen before after all.
Well, it's true, but just hang on a minute just before we just slide into that, because we were all expecting it to be out in 2015, weren't we?
Well,
we
yes.
really thought it would be there, maybe in a few months, maybe just after E3 or in November or something at the latest. But now they've just said no. If you think you're getting it, no, it's not coming.
Exactly. So, of course, therefore, I think there has been a certain amount of hope dashing, perhaps, on the part of the Zelda fans there. We are, of course, a little bit disappointed to see this delay of the biggest Zelda game for many years, but, of course, in the process, we can take some solace in the fact that the team will be working on making this game as good as it can be.
Well, this is true. They said they want to make this Zelda game the ultimate and most complete Zelda game that there's ever been.
Right, so I think previously Mr. Aonuma did also say that someday he wants to top even the great Ocarina of Time in terms of making a really excellent Zelda game. And apparently Mr. Aonuma hopes that the extra time will be a reward to the patience of those waiting for the game. Or not the extra time, rather, the extra quality, as it were, of the game as a result of that time.
Well, most certainly, yes, indeed, and so it should be. But of course, surely they would want to make a game that tops the other games anyway.
Well, indeed.
You see, this is the question.
As I think Mr. Miyamoto said, a delayed game is eventually good, but a bad game is bad forever, and I think that perhaps is the ideology they're applying here.
Well, perhaps, but let's just break it down and have a little look at what we think about what's actually happened here, because everyone will want to know. Well, obviously they've put this statement out and they said these things, but could it be that they've got this huge environment? Because one of the things they're playing on this Zelda game is a huge open world environment, Skyrim-y type thing, I suppose, that we haven't really seen in Zelda before, and maybe they had this huge environment with all this expanse for Link to walk over, but there was nothing really there. Just trees and things.
I think if we put this whole thing into a nutshell from what he was saying, it seems to me as if the team has bit off more than they could chew. They bit off more than they could chew, and in doing so, they made the world too big. So basically, can we say then that at the moment we might just have a big empty world for Link to explore with not really too much in it?
Well, exactly. Maybe just a couple of places where the story continues, but then he can just go around and there may be a few little sheep in the background.
And farmers' houses.
Not really a lot happening. So, okay, we explored the world, we found some sheep, and there were some cows over there who were mooing. That was it.
And now what?
So they've obviously looked at that and thought, well, hang on, we can't have that.
No.
We better put all sorts of things in. I don't know, maybe extra little
bits
quests you can do and all sorts.
They did hint at this, of course, before, because they said that the dungeons wouldn't be linear, but they would be located at some points in the world. So you had this set up there where you have dungeons strewn randomly throughout the world, and you can, of course, access those dungeons without having to have certain items to get in, and once you've breezed through the dungeon, you sort of exit and go back out to the main world again. However, perhaps the team have said to themselves, well, hold on, we can't just have all these dungeons scattered over the world with nothing in between, because after all, the player would just basically have, X dungeons here, Y dungeons there, Z dungeons there, but on the rest of the expanse of the map, there's nothing but miles and miles of open countryside, and that's no good, you see. So perhaps they've had to spend a bit more time, perhaps working things into the environment and giving you places to visit and things to do.
Well, exactly. We're just sort of trying to discern or think what may have happened behind those closed doors. Of course, they won't say that in their announcements. It could be that someone's come along and actually said this and said, look, yes, this is wonderful and it's all very big, but there's a problem here.
Yes.
Why haven't we looked at this? Because, if I'm playing this game, I don't just want to be going through the landscape here and just, with nothing going on. I want to see what's going on. I want to interact with the landscape, with the people, with the things, and so we're going to have to work on this.
Exactly.
And they said, oh my goodness me, this is going to take ages, much longer. What will we do?
And I think that's where they're coming from. Perhaps someone has taken a look at this game and they've said, well, to be honest, this game's looking a bit empty. It's not really a game at the moment. It's more of a, an open environment exploring simulator, and so we're going to have to add things into this game to make it a Zelda game on a very large scale. And of course, if they have indeed bitten off more than they could chew, then such a task would be a very big task indeed, which might explain the extra time they need to put these ideas into the game.
Most certainly. Now, some of you may think, well, will we be seeing any perhaps screenshots or little tweaks or little things from them, little goodies released perhaps from them about this? Well, we don't know, because one question that will be asked, of course, is will they be showing the game at E3? Will we see any of it at E3?
This year.
This year.
Right.
Now, that's an interesting question. Now, the answer to that question is most likely, no, there won't be.
Oh dear.
No,
oh dear, I see.
They said that they don't think we're going to be seeing any at E3 at all.
Indeed, fellows, we cannot expect to see this game at this year's E3, and I think what we saw at last year's E3, where we had Link facing off against that monster, was perhaps a small set piece in the world, you see.
Yes.
Rather than being a finished game, that was just a little scene of sorts that they'd set up and made in that particular area of the world to give you something to look at, you see. It wasn't really an indicator of what the final game would be. So, I mean, at this point, at this stage in the early development of the game, with so much time to go, the whole game as we know it could completely change before release.
Well, exactly, it could be, and of course, we've got E3, and if you have people there actually hands-on looking at the game and maybe having a chance to play the game, etc., if they don't have, if there's not enough in the game, as it were, obviously Nintendo won't want people to see that, so they'll obviously not going to say, well, no, hang on, we won't show it here, we'll just leave it away.
Because we don't have anything to show.
Because it's just not ready enough to be ready for that.
That's right, of course, and Nintendo will want to put forward their best cards at E3, no doubt.
Yes.
Now, of course, if this game Zelda Wii U was delayed long enough, it might even end up being pushed to the NX or Nintendo's next console, perhaps, a bit like Twilight Princess was from the GameCube to the Wii.
Well, that's an extremely interesting point. Slightly exciting and very, very interesting, of course. We don't know that's actually the case, and we could be be completely wrong there. But when you say 2016, that could be any time.
Well,
it could be February. It could be much later on in 16, and it could be we've heard about this NX coming out. We don't know exactly the time frame of it, but it's an interesting thought nevertheless. It could happen. They did it, as you said there, with Twilight Princess GameCube to Wii.
Indeed, it depends just how long they're going to delay this game for, and historically speaking, games that have been released too late in a console's lifetime don't necessarily do all that well. So, they may want to push it to the new console if it takes too long to make the game.
Exactly. So this is very interesting what's going on here, but it also raises the question, then what are Nintendo going to bring to the table this year? Because apparently, I think they said they're going to have a gap every year for Mario. So if they bring yes, so there won't be a Mario this year. So if there's a Mario next year and a Zelda, what will they do this year?
Well, of course, the answer must be Metroid, old chap. It has to be, surely.
Metroid. I mean,
come on,
perhaps.
it has to be.
I mean, are they prepared to invest that sort of money into it? Do they think it's big enough?
Well, I do hope. I do hope
we
do see a Metroid. We do have, of course, a Star Fox on the cards already.
Yes,
so there's something at least, and
something there.
I think, to be honest, with Zelda out of the equation, this E3 is one of the biggest, unknown quantities we've seen from Nintendo so far. We just don't know what they're going to pull out of the bag. I think there might perhaps be an announcement concerning their new console, perhaps, but as for the software lineup,
the games,
exactly, for 2015, I just don't know, old chap. I mean, it's very, very hard to say what they're going to produce, but one thing's for sure, you should never underestimate Nintendo, and they always can produce surprises, so we'll have to wait and see.
Well, yes, they can, yes, indeed. But as far as the Zelda game goes on Wii U, no, it's not going to be out this year. We are very, very, we're sorry to report.
We're heartbroken, aren't we, old chap?
It's very, very sad, but it's not going to be out this year, but and it won't be at E3 either, so this is all very bad. But never mind.
It's a bit doom and gloomy, but that's all right, Fiddles. Don't you worry.
There might be things coming out at E3 we don't know about. We'll just have to wait and see.
Indeed, Rose, and we shall be making our return with more Nintendo and Zelda news as and when it becomes available. So there you have it. Thank you very kindly for joining us in this Game Channel and Bertie news update bulletin of sorts. And we look forward to seeing you once more in the next exciting outing, my word. Until then.
Indeed.